My name is Katie Buehner, and I'm the Performing Arts Librarian covering music, theater, and dance at the University of Iowa. I am really excited about doing this today. I went to the Szathmary collection and found my recipe, which you can see here, and I went into the collection looking for a cookie that I knew of. It's called a hermit, and I grew up eating hermits. My dad would make them every Christmas. My dad's not a baker, so this was sort of a weird thing. He had this recipe, he kept it in his wallet, folded on an index card, and he would weigh out all the ingredients, put them in this massive bowl, and then he would mix everything with his hands. And we would help him roll out the cookies and bake them. So I found one page of a Wisconsin cookbook covering recipes from 1900 to 1920 that had two recipes for hermit cookies on it. They're both drop cookies, and so the last instruction on all of the recipes is drop. So we'll just drop them on the baking sheets, I guess. And I couldn't pick one over the other because I was really curious to see how they both would turn out, so we're gonna make both. So let's get baking. Recipe number 1 calls for 1/3 cup of butter and 2/3 cup of sugar and an egg. I need 1 3/4 cups of flour and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And I forgot to put in the tablespoon of milk. I'm not really sure where my tablespoon measure is either, so we're just gonna dip it up. 1/3 cup of raisins goes in, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of cloves. All right. 1/4 teaspoon of mace, which is something I had never heard of before, but it's another nutmeg derivative, and I actually found it at the grocery store, which is pretty exciting. There goes the mace. Actually, it smells like nutmeg, maybe with like a dash of lemon in it. It's kind of got that sort of smell. I don't know how quite else to describe it. And then we drop. So I've got to somehow get this to mix, and I'm thinking that maybe I'm going to go with Papa Buehner's method, and I'm going to mix these with my hands. Yes, they are very washed. 20 seconds, I promise. I'm thinking maybe I should have put the spices in with the flour and baking powder and given that a whisk, because mixing them into this very dense dough is probably not exactly going to distribute them evenly. But I will say it smells very nice in here. Nice and spicy. So here's my dough for now, and I'm gonna let that sit, and I'm gonna make the dough for the second recipe, and we'll compare notes, because I think the other one is a little bit wetter than this dough. Just guessing, but I think it's gonna be a little bit wetter. Okay, second recipe. For recipe number 2, I'm actually going to cut the amounts in half because I think I'll just end up with way too many cookies otherwise. So I'm going to start with 1 cup of dark brown sugar, 1/2 cup of butter. It calls for 3 eggs, but I'm not putting 3 eggs in. In fact, I might have a use for this egg later. We'll see. Okay. And get our mixing on. So I'm going to learn from my last cookie, and I'm actually going to add the spices into this flour mixture before I put them in so that they kind of spread throughout the dough. So the recipe calls for 1/4 teaspoon of clove scant, which I'd never seen that notation before, so I looked it up and it means just kind of like barely 1/4 teaspoon, so I've left a little bit of room in my teaspoon, but there we go. A pinch of ginger, 1 cup of figs. I am assuming that the recipe does not want me to put whole figs in, so I'm just going to chop these bad boys up a little bit. I've never actually baked with figs or cooked with figs, so this is going to be exciting. Gotta say, figs smell really good. I will probably bake with them again, 'cause they smell so good. I need a half a cup, and it's taken a while to chop them up. But I will. I don't know something else that rhymes with up and cup. Okay, so I've got a half cup of figs. And I need a half a cup of raisins. I know people aren't usually wild about raisins in cookies. You know that if you have a plate of cookies and you have, say, sugar cookies and snickerdoodles and chocolate chip and oatmeal raisin, those poor oatmeal raisin are going to be the last cookie standing. But today we're going to salute the raisin. The raisin is a good ingredient for a cookie, or it can be. I hope today that is true. I also need a half a cup of walnuts. I'm running out of cup measures, so I'm just going to do that. So I've got hot water here, and I need soda. And I need half a teaspoon of soda. Almost. There we go. And I'm gonna get the world's largest most overcompensating whisk. Go with that. Really loud. Okay, so we're gonna bring back our delightful bowl of stuff. And first I'm gonna add in my dry, which also needed to be whisked. Hang on. Doing that right now. Okay, here we go. And add in this water and soda. We're moving all that stuff, that goodness, into our batter here. Mix it in, mix it in. La 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 la. That looks good and mixed. Okay, did I get everything? Yes. Alright, so this is definitely a tale of two doughs. I am going to go with the typical 350 degrees. There were no temperature markings or bake times on these recipes, which is kind of a theme for most of the baking you've seen on Snacks in the Stacks. And so we're going to see if 350, and I'll probably start with 10 minutes and then check on things. I suspect it's probably actually going to take a little bit longer than that, but we shall see. That was probably the worst pan in all of ever. Yes, Mother, I am using my Air-Bake cookie sheets because you taught me this is the best way to go, and you were not wrong. So, let's roll out some cookies. Now, my family made hermits growing up. Our job as kids was to do the following, and I'm going to do this method because I feel like it suits this particular consistency of dough. We're supposed to take 3 fingers and do smush, and smush, and smush. Oh, it's still fun as an adult. I'm not going to lie, guys. It's pretty fabulous. And then the other thing we did is that we added a little bit of egg wash to the top of the cookies. And again, I'm going to add to the Wisconsin cookbook repertoire some little Buehner family history knowledge. And it just adds a little shine and whatever to the top of the cookie. Definitely doesn't hurt anything. I think I put a little too much water in my egg wash, but it'll be alright. Okay. So these bad boys are gonna go in just a second, but I'm gonna put the other ones on the sheet first. So I did some more of the drop cookie method on this batch. I feel like it fits the consistency of the dough. I will say this dough is a very odd consistency. I'm very curious to see what the texture is of these cookies when they bake up, because it sort of almost has like a moussey feel to it. Anyway, we're gonna drop these in the oven for 10 minutes, see how they're doing, and then if they're ready to come out, we'll bring them out. They probably won't be. My oven tends to run a little on the low side, so it'll probably be closer to 14 to 16 minutes, but let's find out. So here we have our 2 cookies. We have cookie number 1, which is the one made with baking powder, and it is a bit cakier looking. And the egg wash and the prints didn't really stick, but I think actually smushing them down was probably a good call. And then we have our drop cookie, which has the dark brown sugar in it, and I have not taste tested these yet, so here we go. Cookie number 1. Kind of tastes like a snickerdoodle that's trying to be spicy but isn't quite. It's not bad. I haven't found any raisins. Let me get a bite with some raisins. These would make a nice cookie with coffee. They did bake up rather nicely. They are baked through, which is good. For the second batches, I raised the temperature up to 375 because 350 was not doing it. Alright, so now we're going to try the one with the dark brown sugar. Okay, what makes this cookie work is definitely the combination of the dried fruit and the walnuts. These are actually pretty tasty, but I think I would punch up the spices. Wow, it kind of is a nice little. You can kind of taste the dark brown sugar toward the end of the taste. Toward the end, actually these are pretty good. So that was our snack in the stacks of Hermit's, a family cookie for me that tastes nothing like either of these, but these were both decent enough cookies, and this one was actually pretty good, and I will definitely be baking with dates again. So thank you, Szathmary Collection, and thank you, Special Collections, for giving me a reason to bake on a Saturday afternoon in front of a camera. Happy snacking, everyone.